Hello and welcome to Protect Your Copyrights with the Red Giant Rights Group CEO, Robert King. On today's podcast, we learn more about Windows and how your windows are closing. Are you taking advantage of what Congress has given you? And now, here's Robert King with Protect Your Copyrights.
Come on! Hey everyone, thanks for joining our podcast, Protect Your Copyrights. My name is Robert King. I run a company called Red Giant Rights Group. We started it with the older artist in mind, those older artists who are not aware of all of their rights, particularly given to them by the U.S. Congress. And we also assist surviving family members, most of which don't have any inclination of their rights. They were not artists. They were not in the industry. They have wills, trusts, and estate attorneys handling their estates who know very little, if anything, about copyright law. So we hope that you'll check out all of our podcast episodes and learn what you can. Feel free to reach out to me personally, but let's see what we'll talk about today. Hey, everybody. How are you doing today? Thanks for listening to Protect Your Copyrights. I'm Robert King, CEO of Red Giant Rights Group. Today we're talking about timing. We're talking about the time that you have in order to protect your copyrights. So first, let's talk about the length of the copyright and the value that you have from creating that copyright, and the years of exploitation that you and your family will enjoy, particularly if you have a copyright that has been recognized and consumed by audiences nationally, internationally. So the primary date that you want to keep in mind is January 1st, 1978. And the major difference between pre-January 1st, 1978 and post-January 1st, 1978 is the passage of the law update to the Copyright Act in 1976. Now, just to be clear, I am not an attorney, and I am giving you my interpretation of what I have read on the topic. You can definitely consult your copyright attorney, and I recommend that you seek out a copyright attorney. Not all entertainment attorneys understand copyrights, which is fine. They're excellent at what they do, but not necessarily an understanding of the Copyright Act. So, and we use at Red Giant some of the best copyright attorneys in the country. So from what I understand, that date is very important, January 1st, 1978. And so prior to that, you have one law that timing applies to, and then after that, you have another law, different language, and different timing applies. So if you created art prior to January 1st, 1978, it falls under one. And if you created art afterwards, it falls under the other. And if you created it in 77, it can get very convoluted, and definitely you need to seek out some advice, some counsel on what to do and how to protect yourself. So here's the crux. Here's the bottom line that you need to understand. There is something called public domain, and as we know, songs like the Battle Hymn of the Republic, God Bless America, Star Spangled Banner, Stephen Foster's songs that were written in the 1800s, the early songs from the 20th century, these are all in what's called public domain, meaning you and I could take these songs and play them willy-nilly, exploit them, play them on our programs, put them on television, put them in our shows, and use them because they are part of the public. If it is a recording of that song after 1922, then you got to be careful. But if you were to make your own recording of that song, then it is in public domain, so you have every right to do that. So, and the public domain, as far as I understand, is 23, 24, somewhere around there, 1923, 1922, 1924. Again, consult your attorney. But you're talking about the early 20s. So things that are prior to, copyrights that are prior to, when we're talking about songs, you're talking about books, prior to 1978, then, prior to 1922, they fall within this concept of public domain. Keep those things in mind. Those are songs, books. The Great Gatsby, I believe, is one that came into that fell into the public domain this year. So think about those books, all the books that were written prior to 1972, and plays that were written prior to 1972. These are all in the public domain. So when we're talking about music and songwriting and then sound recordings after February 15th, 1972, then that January 1st, 1978 date is very important, because prior to that, you have, and I think it was in 09 or 1919, I think it's 1909, the update to the Copyright Act that they made was, I believe it was, let me see if I can remember these, 28 years, so maybe it was a 14-year length of copyright in the beginning, and then extended to 28 years, and then that was extended, I believe, and maybe in the 60s. Don't quote me on these. I'm not an attorney, but the 28 years extended to two 28-year terms. So if you are, here's what you need to know. If you want a chance to either get your copyrights back or to renegotiate any existing deals, prior to 1978, think of 56 years. So whatever your date is, 56 years is a very important window of time. Now, the statute, when you read it, is convoluted, and maybe it's written that way on purpose. I'm not sure, but it took me a long time to understand exactly what that window is. But let me say this to you very plainly. If you are a songwriter and you had hits in the 60s, and you have not terminated or taken advantage of your right to terminate, then definitely reach out to a copyright attorney to assist you in that process. We're happy to answer any of your questions at Red Giant. This is there could be great value to you to take advantage of that. So you're talking about songwriters in the 60s, early 70s, and then recording artists in the 70s, and then post January 1st, 1978, you're looking at a different statute, but 60s, 70s, 80s artists, even early 90s, those are important windows of time that you can focus on. If you're creating art in those times, now is the time to talk to a copyright attorney or get some advice. So, two 28-year periods, 56 years prior to January 1st, 1978. After January 1st, 1978, think about 35 years. So, and really, you can start making a difference after 25 years. But think about 35 years as that important date. Now, you have a legacy, right? Because you created this art prior to 1978, and you have after you die. And you leave your art to your surviving family members, your copyright continues to exist, and you continue to get paid on that copyright, and based on the agreements that you have. And the length of that copyright is changes often, but most recently it's 95 years. And I believe even more recently, as part of the Music Modernization Act, that was extended to, I believe, either 105 or 120 years. So 2067, I believe, is an important date. So you definitely need to look at, if you're a surviving family member of an artist that created art in the 60s, 70s, before January 1st, 1978, get an idea of how long your term is, how long your copyrights exist. And if you still fall within the window to terminate, then that will allow you to have a discussion. There is another part of that previous statute prior to January 1st, 1978, and it looks like there's a third window of time. This is debatable. People argue about it. Even attorneys argue about it. But it does look like to many copyright attorneys that there is a third window of time, and that's if you're creating art in the 40s and 50s. So if you're a surviving family member of a playwright, author, singer-songwriter, primarily songwriter, if you're and you are being paid a royalty on those pieces of art, then you may have a window to terminate it, even if it's in the 40s and 50s. Again, seek out counsel. So the good news is that there are windows of time for you to protect your copyrights. And the bottom line is, we started Red Giant Rights Group in order to help older artists and surviving family members protect their copyrights. That is our mission. That is our raison d'etre. That is every morning when we get up, that's what we're focused on. So, but the bad news is, I'm sorry. Let me jump before I tell you the bad news. Let me jump to after January 1st, 1978. The length of your copyright after January 1st, 1978 is for the rest of your life plus 70 years. So even after you're gone, your heirs will continue to reap the benefits of your creativity for at least 70 years after your death. If you're in a group, or it is your copyright has been co-written or co-created, then that 70-year term begins when the last person in the creation in the group, or if it's co-written, the last person dies. So you may pass away at a certain time, but your partner stays alive for the next for another 10, 15 years. Then your family enjoys more time on their copyrights, even more than the 70 years, even after your death. So now, just a side note, if you are listening to this and you're a creator and you have copyrights, you need a wills, trust, and estate attorney who is creating your will, who is writing the language of your will, to understand the value of your copyrights and to understand the windows of protection. Obviously, this is something at Red Giant that we can assist, where we can assist, but you have to be careful on which wills, trust, and estate attorney you choose, because very few of them, if any of them, have any clue on termination rights. We happen to know some, and some of the best, but and we can definitely point you in the right direction. and assist you in that process. But if you can hurt your family, or let me say it this way: you can your family will wind up in probate, litigation, fighting over your copyrights if it's not clearly delineated. And let a copyright attorney help you because the intricacies are they're very confusing and very important. So if you have not done that yet, and this is an important step, and please heed our advice, because artists are unfortunately popular artists and talented contributors, creators are passing away. Seems like every week, if not every day, that we're losing people, very creative people, and we know for a fact that some of these artists, household names, have not taken the steps to protect their copyrights. Even though somebody may have knocked on their door and tried very hard to help them protect their copyrights before they were gone, and now their family is in a mess, and they didn't do what they needed to do in a timely manner. Very, very important. Very, very important. I can't stress it enough. So we're happy to discuss that with you if need be. But let me tell you the bad news, okay? There is good news. There are windows of time. The bad news is if your window closes, then you miss your opportunity. And when I say you miss your opportunity, in some cases you miss your opportunity forever. So that is gone. It's you had an opportunity. It was gifted to you by the U.S. Congress, and you didn't take advantage of it, and it's gone forever. And that's, of course, to us, that's extremely disappointing. And again, this happens every day. We run across artists that or surviving family members that we can't even keep up with it. The wave, it's when you go to the beach and you're staying on the beach and a wave hits your feet, and then another wave hits your feet, and then another wave hits your feet, and then another wave. Just a constant flow of waves. Hitting, brushing up against the sand, hitting your feet. That is what it's like every day trying to keep up with all the copyrights that expire on a daily basis. Like expire, like the window closes, and the opportunity's gone forever. So, and that's disparaging and disheartening and very frustrating for us. Who are dedicated to assisting artists and surviving family members to protect their copyrights. So, yeah, so there is. So you do need to know about these windows. These windows open, and they stay open for a good number of years, and then they close. And once they close, it's gone. And what we try to do is sometimes we run into a copyright or an artist, and that window is closing, and we try to reach out to them and say, hey, do you know about it? Now, think about this. Sorry to interrupt. This is Robert King, CEO of Red Giant Rights Group. I want to make sure that you know that we are available to answer your questions. Feel free to call me on my cell phone for a confidential conversation, 917-848-9934. Again, 917-848-9934. And now back to the podcast. Please listen and understand this, because we sometimes get a little flack. We get a little heat because we're reaching out to them, quote unquote, at the last minute. Let me tell you something. Number one, the publisher and the label did not reach out to you and tell you that this window was open, and has been for many years. Number two, whoever you have on your team, manager, attorney, agent, friend, colleague, family member, they didn't tell you about this window and that it was closing. Red Giant comes in at the end sometimes because we see the window closing and we say, hey, are you aware of this? If you're not aware of this, take advantage of the opportunity to protect your copyrights. We're not the villains. And we don't consider ourselves saviors. However, we can execute and assist you to protect those rights. And if you want to be frustrated at somebody, besides being frustrated at yourself, which, hey, we get it. I think you've heard me say before, I'm an artist. I get it. I want to create art. I just want to write songs and sing them. I mean, I get it. So, but be frustrated. You can be frustrated at your attorney. You can be frustrated at your manager. You can be frustrated at those in your immediate circle who have not at least provided the option for you, or at least in the know enough to let you know what was going on. Listen, I've had some conversations, some tough conversations with very, well, they're not household names necessarily, but if you're in the industry, you know who these managers are. You know who these attorneys are. You may know who some of the family members are. And they, I had a chance at one of the conferences to have a conversation with one of the top agents in the country. And I went up to this person and said, X, Y, and Z, this is what we do. And his response to me was, I've never heard of that. So it's not necessarily the agent's job because they're more in line with the booking, but I have plenty of managers who've never heard of it. I have plenty of artists who've never heard of it. And there are some attorneys who know about it, but then just don't really know the intricacies of it. Then you have the people who just don't believe you. You will share this information with them. And God forbid we say anything that isn't accurate, because we know our reputation is on the line every time that we speak out about protecting your copyrights. And if we're wrong, then that doesn't look good for Red Giant. So when we go out there to say what we say, to say that your window is closing, we say it with extreme confidence that you are able to, that you can do something about it. And then to have people, either artists or managers, to be incredulous, or to say, oh yeah, well, I heard X, Y, and Z, say, intimating that it was not a possibility. And I'll hold those stories close to my heart, and not share the specifics with you, because it can be very, very frustrating to hear somebody say, I've been in the business for 30 years, I've never heard of this. Let me say something at the risk of being obnoxious, at the risk of being controversial. Just because you haven't heard of it doesn't mean it's not true. You can be in the business for 60 years, and just because you haven't heard of it doesn't mean it's not true. This is not something, I know you've heard me say this is not something that Red Giant made up. It's not something where we sat around and said, hey, let's go after these older artists and somehow come up with an angle that we can bamboozle them with timelines and deadlines. This is federal law granted to every creator that any creator that created a copyright, federal law gifted by the U.S. Congress to you in order to protect. When you create something, you don't have a clue on whether or not it's going to be great or it's just going to be another song. And then all of a sudden it's celebration. Celebrate good times. Come on. So you liked it and it was fun making it, but you had no idea that it was going to be sung at at ball games and concerts and television shows and advertising campaigns for decades. As talented as those gentlemen are who created that song, they didn't know that. So that being the case, Congress says, hey, okay, some time has passed. Your copyright is valuable. Go get it back, or go get a larger piece of it. Benefit your family. And to wrap this up, take advantage of your window. You have the opportunity. You have the opportunity to review your canon, to review all of the art that you've created, and to say, and we understand not every piece of art is a moneymaker, right? So let's say that you have an album, and you have a one song off of it that was a hit. Here is the danger that some artists get obsessed with. That's the only valuable copyright. No, it's not. We're working in synchronizations and licensing. We had a request last week for, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago, but we had a request for one of the hot Netflix shows. And it is set in a certain year, back, several decades ago. It's set in a certain year, and so they're looking for songs from that year, right? That makes sense. I mean, look at isn't the Wonder Woman, the new Wonder Woman movie that was supposed to come out this summer, except that all the theaters were closed? But the new Wonder Woman movie, isn't it set in like 1984, 1986, something like that? So all of the music is on the soundtrack is from that year or that era. So, yes, you had a hit. That's great. But you created art. You created music. And there are more production companies looking for interesting, underdeveloped, not necessarily popular. Frankly, it's cheaper because they're not as popular as some of the hits, but they're still great music, and they still it may be topical. It may have it may have a message in it that is perfect for the particular scene or the particular advertising campaign. So you've created the art, man, and it is valuable. All of it. Not just your hit or hits. All of it. We try to find a place for we see every asset. At Red Giant, we see every asset that you've ever created as something of value. Because we know that the record labels see it that way. We know the publishers see it that way, and we know that you and your family are going to benefit over the next several decades, life plus 70 years. That's generational. So every opportunity for every piece of art that you created, any chance you get. Listen, we have one client that has over 500 songs. That they wrote over 500 songs, and this particular client is making money on, let's say, 300 of the 500 plus songs. So let's say 60% to give us round numbers. Well, so do we discard the 40% altogether? No, we do not. We look at those songs and what's unique about them and how we might exploit them and give them a new life. If your asset doesn't make any money, so what? We know it's an asset. You need to know it's an asset. The record label considers it an asset. Otherwise, they would give it back to you, like without you even asking. But all of a sudden, when you ask, they're like, no, we're not giving it back to you. Why not? It's not making any money. You haven't put it out on any digital platforms. It's sitting in a vault somewhere or a warehouse. Or, you're not doing anything with it. Why do you want it? They want it because it's an asset on their spreadsheet. And if you come and take a bunch of their assets, the total value of their company becomes less. Decreases. So that's the way they look at it, and they're a multi-billion-dollar organization. It's also the way we look at it. We know that everything you've ever created is of value, and we also know that some of you have songs or scripts or manuscripts that have never been published that are of great value. We know that there are stories of your life that have never been told or have never been acted out or presented in a certain way that are of value. We know that your life and your contributions through your art is valuable. And that's why we use the power of the intricacies of the Copyright Act to your advantage and to the advantage of your family members. Because we want to take whatever it is that you're earning now and double it or triple it or give it a multiple of 10 or multiple of 100. Whatever it is, we're gonna do our best to exploit the copyrights. And think about this. There are around 300 DSPs. DSP is a digital service provider. 300 of them. Are you getting paid from all 300? Are you getting paid everything that you're worth? Are you making all the money that has been set aside for you? So that is part of our mission as well. We're going to find every dollar that's out there that should be going to you and to your family. We're going to find it and we're going to redirect it. If it's going somewhere else or if it's sitting in a bank somewhere, we're going to redirect it so that it comes to you and your family. Now, I don't want to get off topic because we're talking about timing, but I do want to stress the point of value as well. It's not just, and the reason that you want to take advantage of the timing is because everything has value. If you choose not to do this, the record label wins. The publisher wins. Again. You know how many conversations we've had, I personally have had with older artists or family members who are just burnt out at 60, 70, 80 years old, who've been taken advantage of. I don't want to use the word, I don't want to trivialize a word like rape, but they feel like that they have been raped by the record labels and by the publishers because they're on a 90-10 deal or a 95-5 deal. Or did I see something? Did I hear something the other day that was a 98-2 deal? I feel like I did. Ladies and gentlemen, 98-2? Come on. This is just not, I don't get it. How have these companies gotten away with this for so long? So anyway, take advantage of your windows. The windows have been gifted to you. You got to know when they are. You got to get counsel. You got to get advice. Reach out to somebody who knows what they're doing. But it's not just about paperwork and protecting yourself with paperwork. You need somebody who's going to help you negotiate. And you don't need somebody who's just going to charge you billable hours. You need somebody who's going to negotiate on your behalf. Some of these attorneys that you have, I'm speaking to you specifically because you have attorneys already. Some of them are also negotiating contracts with the record labels. Now, listen, follow me here. They're negotiating new artist contracts. They don't want to do anything to rock the boat with their record label relationships because they have new artist contracts that they're negotiating. We don't deal with that. We are our dedication is to you, to your family, to get you the best deal possible. We don't have one hand going in negotiating your copyright windows, and on the other hand, we're negotiating a brand new deal for a brand new artist. And we're not best friends with these people. We don't go to the same church that they go to. We don't. Our kids don't play on the same ball teams that they do. Nothing wrong with the relationships. That's how business is done. But we are advocates, 100% advocates for the artist and your time and your copyrights, your windows, your assets. So keep that in mind as you move forward. Seek out counsel. Learn what you can about these windows. Learn what you can about the value. See everything that you've created as valuable, like we do. Let us know if you have masters or songs that have never been published, or masters that are not released on digital service platforms. Now is the time. There's like I've said already today, there's more going on now around the world than ever before. Your art is available around the world almost practically instantaneously with all the platforms are today. So if you have assets that are sitting there, or let's take advantage of the assets that you made many decades ago, let's figure it out. We're 100% advocates for you. We're not charging you billable hours. And we specialize in this particular thing, your windows, your assets. Be careful who you rely on your team who specialize in other things. It's and to be clear, if you're a manager and you're listening to this, we don't want to supplant you. I'm not a manager. I have no interest in managing an artist. I'd be horrible at managing an artist. We're not an agency. We don't have an interest in supplanting you as an agent, or even attorneys. I'm happy to work with entertainment attorneys, as long as they understand what we're doing and that we do this. You've heard me use the analogy. It's the primary care physician and the cardiologist. Which one do you want to open your chest? Alrighty. So I hope that today was informational. I hope that it challenges your way of thinking. This is real. This is important. This is valuable. And we want to see you take advantage of every opportunity that you have. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. We're happy to answer your questions, and we're happy to be your advocates. Hang in there. Have a great time. We'll see you the next time. Thanks for listening to Protect Your Copyrights.
Thanks for listening to Protect Your Copyrights with Red Giant Rights Group CEO Robert King. For a confidential conversation with Robert, give him a call on his cell phone at 917-848-9934. Once again, that's 917-848-9934. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and be sure to join us next time on Protect Your Copyrights with Robert King. Woo!